what's up? Back at you with another video. Today, we are looking at Rob Hersov. If you've been following the channel, you'll remember that we caught up with him twice or three times. The two most prominent encounters being when he went to Biz News TV and he admitted that he is the mastermind behind Katlego, Ronaldo Gous, Byron Shepherd, Thomas Mabaso, 360 Experience. We don't know. Maybe Waras is also in there. Maybe Penwell is also in there. Maybe Disa Masambit is also in there. And so that was the first prominent. Then the second one was when he went to DJ Spoo's podcast. And there we got to see a bit of an interaction. And now we are joining him directly on his YouTube channel. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called Rob Hersov's The Unvarnished Truth. So we're going to be listening to him. He's looking quite interesting. A billionaire on YouTube. You know, when I was young, I used to read books about Sir Richard Branson, as he's called, the rebel billionaire. And I remember reading anything I could find about him, about the Virgin Empire, buying his books, reading them, wishing I could start an airline because I'd never seen an idea so dope in my mind. It was before there was real revolution in tech, social media, YouTube, content creation. So starting an airline, owning gyms, that was some massive, very big idea. And there was Virgin Mobile at that time. So now we've got a billionaire here, a modern billionaire in the modern time, perhaps taking inspiration from the current Elon Musk and maybe borrowing from the Richard Bransons and the other billionaires that he's been around. He says he was a right-hand man of Rupert Murdoch. Is he the owner of the English Premier League and Sky News, a media mogul, much more than that, right? So let's listen to him now and what he has to say. The title is Wake Up ANC, I Can Fix South Africa.
We're a nation rich in talent, resources, and resilience, yet economic growth remains stubbornly low, unemployment cripplingly high, and opportunity elusive for too many. The time for incremental change is over. We need bold, transformative action to unlock our true potential and build a South Africa where every citizen has the chance to thrive. And the answer, I believe, lies not in more of the same socialist, state-led approaches that have held us back, but in embracing the power of economic freedom, individual liberty, and the dynamism of free markets. It's time for a new direction, a path paved by principles that have lifted nations out of poverty and propelled them to prosperity across the globe. This is not about abandoning the vulnerable, but about empowering everyone. It's about creating an economy that works for all South Africans, generating jobs, opportunity.
It's not about abandoning the vulnerable. You mean the end of DEI is not about the ending of support for the vulnerable?
And genuine wealth. It's about building a future where our children and grandchildren can look forward with hope and confidence. And here are 10 key pillars grounded in libertarian and capitalist principles that can propel South Africa towards 5% economic growth and a brighter future for all. The bedrock of prosperity is to have secure private property rights. Imagine building a house on sand. Uncertainty and instability undermine any foundation. That is precisely what weak property rights do to our economy. We must unequivocally strengthen and secure private property rights for all South Africans. This means clear, legally robust titles, streamlined registration, and an end to the shadow of expropriation without fair compensation. When individuals and businesses know their assets are safe, they invest, they innovate, and they build for the future. Secure property rights are the engine of long-term prosperity. Second, cutting red tape, deregulate for growth. Businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, the lifeblood of job creation, are drowning in a sea of ANC regulation. We must launch a massive deregulation drive, slash red tape and simplify business processes. Starting a business should be really straightforward, not an obstacle course. Let's unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of South Africa by removing the bureaucratic shackles that stifle innovation and growth. 3, privatize state-owned enterprises. Our SOEs, Eskom, Transnet, SAA.
So, you know how I feel, right? When I'm listening to neoliberals, capitalists, and I do say that I am a capitalist myself, I've always been an entrepreneur, strangely. So I met entrepreneurship and personal pursuit, the desire for money, not the love of it. Being poor, I understood the need to get money. So I have a healthy understanding of money and why it should be pursued. When there's a need, money is the solution in 99% of times. Being on an entrepreneurial journey, having never had a job, formal employment, having never applied for it, having studied at tertiary level for 1 year before deciding to drop out, having grown along the way and attempted multiple things that have succeeded and then failed. And those were because of personal reasons. It was attitudes, egos, spirits, problems with people and their mind, people I was working with, people around me. So I've seen what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I know a thing or two about researching, finding an opportunity. I've seen the whole mile from concept to conversion, customer putting money in your hand. I've spent some of my time being an import merchant, flying to China, buying things there, shipping them in containers, selling them on Take-A-Lot, selling them in mall exhibition stands, interacting with a customer, paying rent at a commercial premises so that we can generate money, having an account, taxes, all of these things. I know them. Writing a business plan. I've seen it all. I understand how incredibly difficult it is to be an entrepreneur, how much you need to know. And so when I'm listening to the capitalists throwing around this, let's be entrepreneurs, let's explore entrepreneurship, I'm a bit suspicious. I myself am an advocate for entrepreneurship. I would like for young people in this one life that they have, in this one South Africa, in this potential disaster that our lives may turn into, I hope for people to take this chance while they're still young. The sooner the better, to find a way to learn how to sell a service or a product, how to contract, how to capitalize on opportunities when you see them, being able to assess them, their feasibility, their viability, being a risk taker, finding product market fit, being a dope marketer, being a face for your business, having the confidence to speak for it and promote it. All of these things I understand and I know how very, very, very difficult they are. But I encourage those who would try. But I'm always cognizant at how difficult the road is going to be. I believe that out of 100 people that I can motivate to get started, maybe 2 will become pure gold along the way. The heat will burn them and they will withstand, and it'll burn out the impurities like gold in a furnace. There's no point for gold to cry about being in a fire because the fire is important to making the gold what it is. So you need people who are not going to cry along the way, or people who will cry and get over it. So 2 will make it. So when Rob Hersov is busy saying, let's spark the spirit of entrepreneurship, there will be businesses here, and everywhere, I'm like, oh, bro, you're sounding like ANC right now. Much as they throw jobs around, you are throwing and or cajoling people with the possibility of taking a risk, because that's what it is. Everybody who would succeed in their life will have to take a risk. You're not going to make it on Rob Hersov's motivation. So he's just saying, let's have an economy where we will motivate people to take risks, put money on the line and get screwed. Because that's what's going to happen. A lot of you will get screwed. I've gotten screwed plenty of times. So he's saying come out of your comfort and come into the risk. And I understand, man, that's something that makes sense for a billionaire's mind. Living at level 3, living in pain. There's comfort, there's then discomfort. Level 2 now. And then there's level 3 where you're living in pain, where you're either doing something extremely difficult, either gymming to make your body healthy, or you've dedicated yourself to reading a book. Hey, some quick shameless self-promotion over here. If you love and enjoy this channel and you also happen to love dope gadgets, you can support my new baby, my new startup, my new retail venture, Gadget Plug. In case you've only ever known me as a YouTuber, you'll be glad to know that I'm also a wedding and documentary film producer, pro video editor, and all-round entrepreneur with a love for high-end gadgets like cinema cameras, gaming consoles, powerful GPUs, computers, and mobile phones. And my electronics store Gadget Plug is your new go-to place for the latest and greatest in tech. We're talking real gadgets, real quality, real quick, at the best prices in all of South Africa. To know more about this, head on over to my website imneo.co.za and check out my e-commerce store today. As we officially kick off business, Gadget Plug has stock right now of iPhone 16 Pro Max in 256 and 512 gig at 25,000 and 28,000 respectively. Simply press the green button at the bottom of my website if you want to inquire, and one of my friendly customer service agents will attend to you. Thank you very much for your support. And now back to the video. If that's painful, it'll be painful. If you've committed yourself to taking small risks, let's say you're playing with Forex and financial speculations and bets, putting in that 100 Rand, it may be your last, but living in a place where you're in this pain of possibly losing the 100 Rand, but possibly multiplying it. That's what Rob Hersov is inviting people into. I know this. This is how I'm sure of it, and I'm certain that the world operates this way. I myself lived in some cloud. I believe that funding from government was some kind of lottery. What's that movie? I think there was a movie called The Island. Yeah, there's a movie called The Island. And it's a group of people who are manufactured in a lab on some island. And they are manufactured as, are they first children before they become adults, or are they harvested as adults? Whatever. But these people live inside a warehouse. They live inside a huge yard. And they don't know of the outside world. They live in this situation where there are lotteries to allow you to get off the island and go to the other place. That's what they're told. And so in order to leave the warehouse, there's a lottery. So a person wins from time to time and they get to go. But what they don't know is this lottery they're winning, that they are betting on, is actually fixed. It's a way to remove each one so that their parts can be harvested, so that their parts can be transplanted to the person who actually owns them. So these are people harvested. They are clones of billionaires who don't want to die, who don't want to suffer physical complications. So they've paid this factory to manufacture copies of them. And so at the right time, when the billionaire gets sick or something, that person will be convinced that they've won the lottery and they are now finally leaving. But the truth is they get taken to the back of the island where they enter a surgeon's room, they get put under / killed, and their hearts, their eyes, their limbs are transplanted to the billionaire. And so these people live this life where they are constantly hoping to leave. And so, long story short, I'm sorry if that took long. I used to think that as a black person, as a young entrepreneur, you need to work hard enough, show yourself capable enough to win this lottery and leave the township, go into the suburbs, and you have to attempt and take risks, etc., etc. And one day the government will give you 5 million rands as an award, as a grant. And I really thought that there are black people who are getting these grants, who are being enabled to move up and move out. And I always saw myself as somebody on a queue to one day fill in the forms, show that I'm a worthy, capable young entrepreneur, and the government will give me this lottery and I'll be able to get out. But I finally got to knock on the doors of direct funding institutions, ask the right questions, sober, and say, I want funding. And you realize that in all cases, for you to get out as a black person, You need to find an idea. You need to see an opportunity. You need to have insight. Perhaps work there. Perhaps become a manager. Perhaps understand what's going on. Perhaps have that on a resume. And then go and ask for financing to start that kind of business. And that financing will be debt, interest-bearing debt. And so you'll be paying back that money for you to become lifted. And your business idea is going to have to work. So when I see poor people who've got no idea about how to come out of poverty and they're being motivated to come into a new dispensation, vote for the government that will introduce you to risk. What is the government going to be giving more loans for people to become entrepreneurs? Because you're certainly not suggesting that there's going to be some kind of handouts, because that's something you don't believe in. Libertarians believe that God brought you here, gave you your 40 acres and a mule. Well, 40 acres and a mule is not what God gave, but he gave man land and a horse or a donkey. That's what libertarians believe. And he put you here on earth to start working your land and earning your way. So no, libertarians aren't going to give you anything. So what are you really selling here? Risk.
SAA and others have become a drain on the nation, plagued by inefficiency and mismanagement. It's time for a complete and transparent privatization of commercially viable SOEs. And by transferring these entities to private hands through open auctions, we inject capital into the economy, improve service delivery, reduce the burden on taxpayers, and foster competition and efficiency. The state's role is not to run businesses, but to enable businesses to thrive. Free market labor reforms. Our labor laws, while well-intentioned, have created rigidities that hinder job creation, particularly for young and unskilled workers. We need free market labor reforms that increase flexibility and reduce unnecessary restriction. This includes reviewing minimum wage laws or getting rid of them, easing hiring and firing regulations, and fostering voluntary contracts between employers and employees. A dynamic labor market is essential for absorbing the unemployed and driving economic expansion.
He's saying, let's create a gig economy. Let's create easy contracting, like short-term loans, small amounts, short-term repayment, a Mashoni Singh kind of situation where there will be dealers, people who are looking for labor, bring, I'm buying the cheapest one, auction, the contracts, those slave contracts will be contracts. And he's saying that entrepreneurship will be created in this ecosystem where exploitation is allowed.
We need to lower and create simpler taxes. High and complex taxes stifle economic activity. We must commit to fiscal discipline, control government spending, and implement significant tax reforms. And this means simplifying the tax code, lowering corporate and individual income taxes, and broadening the tax base. Lower, simpler taxes incentivize work, incentivize investment, and create entrepreneurship, fueling economic growth and ultimately generating more revenue for essential government services. And we need to open South Africa up to free trade. Protectionism is economic self-harm.
You all remember how the government, the revenue collector, SARS, realized the opening that Timu had to ship products here and split them up so that each package remains below that line of taxation. You saw how the government needed to close that loop. Rob Hersov is saying, let's open these little holes for there to be, will the receiver of revenue really do that under your government? Will you really allow loose opportunism? Or will you be strict and suck money hard?
We must embrace free trade and tear down barriers to global market, reducing tariffs, pursuing free trade agreements, and eliminating protectionist policies will lower prices for consumers, increase competition, and allow South African businesses to access larger markets. Free trade is a powerful engine for economic growth and prosperity, an independent monetary policy. Inflation erodes savings, undermines investment, and destabilizes the economy. So we must ensure the independence of the South African Reserve Bank and mandate it to focus solely on price stability. Resisting political interference and maintaining a credible monetary policy will create a stable economic environment conducive to long-term growth and investment. Rule of law and combating corruption. Corruption is a cancer that eats away at our economy and society. We have to strengthen the rule of law, ensure equal justice for all, and vigorously combat corruption at all levels. Transparency, accountability, and strong independent institutions are essential to building trust and attracting investment. A clean and predictable environment is vital economic prosperity. And let's talk about education and skills development. It's pretty clear. A skilled and educated population is the foundation of a thriving economy. So we must empower individuals through education and market-based solutions to skills development. This means we have to explore vouchers, charter schools, and vocational training programs that align with market demands. Competition and choice in education will drive quality improvements and ensure our workforce is equipped for the future. Limited government and focusing on core functions. A large interventionist government like the ANC hinders economic dynamism. We have to shrink the size and scope of government intervention in the economy and refocus on core functions, protecting rights, enforcing contracts, maintaining security, and providing essential infrastructure. Limited government allows for greater individual.
You hear contracts. That is an essential thing to understand about capitalists and capitalism, because one would actually even say that capitalism does not exist. Capitalism has no head office. It is not located anywhere. Capitalism is the nexus of contracts between people who are exchanging goods and services. So anyone who is procuring goods is engaged in the practice of capitalism, but you're just on the giving side of it. One ought to get onto the receiving side of these contracts. And for the most part, the black person's contract of choice is the employment contract. And so, yes, you are living in Rob Hersov's contractual world. You just need to wake up and get on the other side to be a business person, to sell services and products. So contracting and all of that stuff is something you need to consider and listen closely to as Rob Hersov is teaching you what he's teaching you here. Contracta. It's not a cell phone contract. You need to understand a term, how long, how much, what is to be done. And contracts start and end. The fact that they end is what's good about them, because if the services are needed, they can be renewed. Or the ending of a contract allows you to be free and mobile, to go contract with someone else. And in understanding this contracting thing, you're going to have to gain the skills to become friends with people, because you don't contract like you're winning a tender in the real capitalist world. Outside of the tenderpreneurship system, where you're submitting forms and there's an award of some kind, the awarding of contract between people is on a golf course, at a country club, in a restaurant, over coffee. You got to be able to speak to the person you are working with, be sincere, be capable and organic. Can't be all chicken, scared here, unwilling to know your customer, your client. So you're going to have an open, bright mind in the world of risk. You're going to be talking a lot. So you need to master that. Woo!
Freedom, entrepreneurship, and economic efficiency. And this is not a utopian dream, but a practical roadmap to a more prosperous South Africa. These 10 pillars, built on the solid foundation of freedom and free markets, offer a path to get away from less than 1% growth, thanks to the ANC, and achieving a crucial 5% economic growth that we desperately need. It will require courage, commitment, and a willingness to break from the failed ANC policies of the past. The reward is immense. A South Africa that brims with opportunity, a nation where hard work and innovation are rewarded, and a future filled with hope for all our people. So let's choose a path of freedom and unlock the true potential of South Africa. The time change is now. South Africa first.
Aish, there's Rob Hersov. What do you think? Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be catching up with him again, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.